Welcome to our second blog and interview with Dr. Ejoy Bowles, a great colleague and friend of mine, where we are discussing essential oil synergy. Last time we talked about the synergy within lavender and bergamot, and you can check it out in the blog before this one. And today we are continuing this interesting conversation. So let's see where it takes us.
And to the second question, which is, what is that significant percentage? Some authors mentioned that 5% is already something to consider, or less or more. And then if you look at, for example, yarrow, which is very often connected to the camozoline content. And now in the database, for example, we have quite some yarrows, and you have anywhere between 0 to over 10% of camozoline. So the person, I will not name it here, but they have 0. I know that this person knows what he's doing when he's distilling. So it really is a yarrow. But what does that tell us? If everybody's talking about this camozoline and yarrow, and it's such a low percentage, and it affects the color, the smell, like you say, what about the effect on the body?
Well, then we get to the idea of is the essential oil properties only dependent on the major constituent, or in fact is it a whole holistic kind of blend, with the many different factors all kind of woven in together. It does get a bit tricky though. I mean, if you're talking about ingestion of the oils, which I know we don't really sort of promote much in aromatherapy, but then you'd be getting all of the constituents into the body at the same time, presumably, pretty much likely to be all absorbed through the intestines into the bloodstream, or into the lymph. But if you have a dermal application of an essential oil, say like yarrow, you'll have the monoterpenes going through the skin more quickly than the sesquiterpenes. And the camozoline is a sesquiterpene, so it's much more likely to stay in the epidermal layers for much longer than the other constituents which will go into the blood.
I will quickly jump in to explain and make sure that everybody's following what Joy is saying. The information she's sharing can be very valuable for your work, and we do have it available for you in Dropsmith. So in any case, I want to make sure that you use this information for your benefit. And what we are talking about is the size of the molecules. So you can get this information within any essential oil, within Dropsmith, within the blends that you create, or comparisons. So it's always there for you. I will show you through advanced filter. If you click on advanced filter and scroll down to chemical groups and components, you will find that we classified the chemical components into the typical functional groups. So we usually classify chemical components into functional groups and size. This is what you will find in most courses, books, and anywhere you talk about essential oil chemistry. We will talk about functional groups and these ones. All the other ones that we thought were interesting to monitor and to get more information from, we put more classifications here if you're interested in exploring that. But you will definitely find the typical ones like hydrocarbons, alcohols, phenols, aldehydes, ketones, and so on. So this is very easily and readily available for you. Joy is talking about size, and that is something that we made sure is also included in all these groups, not just hydrocarbons and alcohols, which you will typically find. So monoterpene alcohols, sesquiterpene alcohols, and monoterpene hydrocarbons, sesquiterpene hydrocarbons. We wanted to make this available for you in all of them, so you have them with aldehydes or ketones or acids as well. Because as you see, what Joy is saying is that size matters. It can tell us a lot more what to do with the essential oils. So the sizes are monoterpene, sesquiterpene, and diterpene. Anything bigger than that is rarely in the essential oil. You will find in it CO2 extracts or, for example, absolutes we have in the database as well. We made another group which is aromatic aldehydes, aromatic alcohols, and so on, because the benzene ring is brings an interesting dynamics to these molecules. So if you take a step further, this can give you some information as well. And other is all the aldehydes in this case that go into other. I would just like to quickly remind you from last time, this is actually for search, so you can search for any component or any group here. If you do go a step further, you will find all the chemical components that are in the database. And right now we have over 4,500 for your convenience and to make more sense out of it all. Anyway, I would like to show you this in an example that might be more close to you. How do you do this and apply this in a typical essential oil? So for example, yuzu, myrtle, geranium, you already have some ideas, but let's look at kaffir lime, because this is something that is not as common. So how can this information be useful for you? And right away, with any essential oil or blend, like I said, you will get a quick overview. So right away you can get some information there if you understand essential oil chemistry. But let's scroll down to detailed report. So here we have it dominating with monoterpenes. Monoterpenes are the monoterpene hydrocarbons. And coming back to what Joy said, how it affects absorption, you will see that this is a very tiny molecule. So you can expect this kaffir lime to absorb into the body a bit quicker than, for example, ylang ylang or geranium. Another thing that that the size of the molecule reveals is volatility and oxidation. So, for example, again, here because of this large portion of monoterpenes, it tells us right away that we should be careful about the expiring date because it can oxidate more quickly, and also a little bit about the smell. Definitely the note. It is the evaporation of your molecules that determines which note you are smelling. So here right away, although perhaps you never smelled kaffir lime, you can see that because of this amount of monoterpenes, it has very high notes. But because you have some of these sesquiterpenes and monoterpene alcohols, it brings down the smell to middle to high note. So it might be dominating with the high notes, but it's going down to, it has some elements of the middle note. So these are just some tips and tricks that you can apply very quickly with Dropsmith and with understanding this conversation we are talking about. And just a heads up, next thing Joy will be mentioning is also skin penetration. So I would like to point out to you that also this kaffir lime has, here you see, almost 60% of skin penetration because all of these molecules have been found to do that for you. So limonene being one of the dominant components and beta-pinene as well, we have research that it is a penetration enhancer. Now let's go back to this great conversation and information Joy is sharing with us today.
So again, we now need a definition about what do you mean by clinical?
Yes.
And if you mean by clinical a topical application, say for an inflammatory condition like eczema or something, I don't know what condition you're thinking of using yarrow for, but that would be something that would come to my mind. Then okay, topical, that's fine. It doesn't need to go in the bloodstream for its effect, and you apply it right there and then all of the constituents can act on that local condition. But if you're trying to put it through the body to try and get to an inflamed joint or inflamed intestines or something like that, well, that's another thing.
I'm sorry, this is out of the scope of 3 questions I wanted to ask you, but
Okay.
It just inspired me. Many of these constituents are also penetration enhancers. So what do you think about that? If you have yarrow with something like lemon, and then because of the limonene content, does that, in your opinion, bring more dynamics to absorption?
Oh, well, definitely. Yes, it would. And I mean, Dr. Daniel Penawell is one of the key proponents of using eucalyptus oil and other oils which are rich in 1,8-cineol as what he calls the openers.
Yes.
So literally, because 1,8-cineol is one of those dermal penetration enhancers. If you put that first, let's say, massage the skin first with eucalyptus oil, open it all up, and then you put your oils, say like your yarrow with the heavier constituents, the camosulines and so forth, and the other sesquiterpenes in yarrow also, then yeah, they should penetrate more quickly, supposedly.
So
But we're just guessing here. We
yes,
actually need guinea pig people to come and volunteer to have their dermal penetration measured. How quickly do the constituents get into the body?
it's brilliant, Joy. I think this is what we can give at this moment. This is the information we have. These are our conclusions, and make the difference between what our conclusions and guessing are to what we have actual research for. But many people have the same question, what is significant or not. So
yeah,
our opinion is that even smaller doses can be significant as an opinion, depending on what you're doing and how. Like you said, if it's topical, it makes sense. If it's topical for inflammation, like you said, for example, if it's topical for something that has to go deeper, then it probably, in our opinion, will not be significant enough. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Did I sum that up? And this
Yeah.
brings me to another very interesting question.
And the question will be continued and revealed in the next blog. Let me know how you enjoyed this video. Let me know if it was useful, what you learned from it. And thank you so much for your attention, and see you next time. Have a lovely day. Bye.